turn down the audience lights. And two things in the Адамус show today that we're going to cover. The first is time. Time. So time is incremental. You live in incremental time. A second to a minute to an hour to a day to a week and on and on. And you've gotten so used to it, you don't recognize there are different types of time. Time itself is a function of focus. You have that one human sense, the only true human sense, focus. Time, when experienced in some new and different ways, allows you to actually expand focus itself. Your focus became so focused, that it's like a gravity that sucked it in. And then you start living incremental time. 1 second, 1 minute, 1 hour. And you accept that as normal. And it's not. It's not. Time has many facets to it. Many, many, many facets to it. And what I'd like to do today is begin that free time. Now, it's almost a contradiction because time in itself is not a free concept. Time is a mathematics. It's a structure. But what if, just what if, there were variables to time, different facets to time? In other words, here we are living second by minute by hour. But what if at the same moment, in the same consciousness perhaps, that you were actually above incremental time, you were in more of a free time? There is still the element of time. There is still kind of the element of past and future, but now it's not so incremental. It would be the difference between being at ground level in a city and walking through all the different streets and alleys and pathways versus being on top of a mountain looking down at the city where you see all of it, not just the street or the alley that you're on. Free time means it's not ordered the same way. It's not incremental. Free time is very real. Now, a scientist or a mathematician would argue all day long that you're making it up. Actually, the real answer to that is all this is make-up. All this is being made up. It's just that people tend to believe that there is just one form of time. The reality is time does not exist at all. It doesn't. Time is a really kind of a structure or a measurement system, but in a way it doesn't really exist. You can't go off in the universe and find time, the time planet or the time portal. It doesn't. It's a kind of a human agreement. It's become real because of that agreement, but they forget to tell you it's flexible. So outrageous here is that you're going to continue to live in incremental time. Your body literally now has a time clock and a time bomb within it. It does. Your body is timed for death. That's okay. I mean, it's we're not trying to overcome death. We're just trying to expand time. So here you are living in incremental time, but now in our short little Merab that we're going to do in just a moment, we're going to start going into free time. And you go, oh, wow, that sounds great, but I'll warn you right up front, it's going to throw off your timing. It's going to throw off that very disciplined, incremental way you've been living. Some of you are already starting to experience this, and it's little things like forgetting what day or what year it is, not because you're getting old, but because you're starting to go into free time. Some of you are actually starting to, be able to project or predict the future. Kinda. You're starting to know what's going to happen next, and it does, and then you're surprised. Well, you shouldn't be surprised. When you're in free time, you're not in those tight blocks of increments like you have been. Now, free time allows you to hover above. It would be kind of like taking a 7-year span and seeing it, sensing it, being in it all in one time, not having to unravel it over 7 years. There's many layers of free time. You have, at the lowest level, the incremental time, seconds, minutes, hours. There's other layers of time. Some of them have to do with the past. And in our coming into free time, you're going to particularly notice in your dreams some odd things that seem to be from the past, or thoughts, feelings, associations that you've had that are from the past. You're going to say, well, geez, I thought I got over my past. The past is still there. Now we're going to do what I'm going to call a time pass around time, where you come and almost orbit back through the past in a timeless or a free time fashion, not to relive it again, but as you orbit back through it without the increments, now just kind of more of a free form, you're going to notice that the past isn't what you had thought it was. The mind remembers the past in its incremental fashion. When you come back in a free time, kind of a pass around, an orbit around it, it's going to be different, but it will bring up recollections, associations, thoughts. Don't get all crazy. Don't start asking, oh, I thought I released all that a long time ago. You released the gravity of it. And the event is still occurring right now. The event is still occurring. It didn't happen back in incremental time and then stop. It's very outrageous. It's still happening. Everything still has its life to it. And it goes on. It's a story that kind of takes off on its own and is being lived out in many levels. And you don't have to attend to it. You don't have to suffer through it. But your stories, it's like writing a chapter in a book and then letting it go. And that chapter continues to write itself and all of its other potentials and all of its other iterations. It lives on. That's actually the beauty of a creator. You don't have to get all enmeshed in it. You don't have to be traumatized by it. But to start realizing that there is free time will be outrageous. And it will change the way you live on this planet as embodied masters. You cannot live. By the way, the answer to the real question at the Ascended Masters Club, why do they want to stay? The Ascended Masters that are there didn't understand free time. They didn't understand time anyway, but they didn't understand free time. Therefore, they didn't have the comfort, the luxury, the excitement of living in a different way. They just thought everything was linear. It's like, oh, I got my enlightenment. I got to get out of here because it's going to be more of the same. The real answer is once you start coming to your senses and being in free time, it's no longer the gray, lifeless place. Suddenly, everything comes to life. Free time. We'll be talking about it more, but I want to begin the process today. Everything's right for it. The tree, you, everything is right. So let's take a good deep breath, and this will be a relatively short Merab because I have one other thing to cover today in the Адамус show. So take a good deep breath. Free time. It means you're starting to realize, you're starting to exist on many different levels. It means you have your incremental level, seconds, minutes, hours, days, years. And that's fine. That's not necessarily going to change. You'll still want you still want to have that for doing a lot of things. But we now take a deep breath where we're at and allow free time. That means you could take an increment of 7 years, for instance, and experience it all at once. Free time is when you are here in the moment, of course, present, but now you have, imagine like it's an orbit of time. Imagine like a comet going into orbits, but the orbits around you're the constant, you're the consciousness. The orbits can change in their size, and they can go into past time and into what you would call future time. So the whole basis of time starts to change a little bit. This is going to happen anyway. It's very natural. You don't have to work at it. You don't have to think about it, but I want you to be aware, because this is going to start leading to some outrageous things in your life. Truly outrageous. Wonderful, but outrageous things. When one goes beyond free time, or linear time, when one goes into free time, it changes the perspective. It changes the grueling nature of everyday human life. So imagine, if you choose, imagine your circadian rhythm, your incremental time basis, still there. But now you allow yourself to realize the other time orbits. Meaning seeing it as a bigger picture rather than seconds and minutes. Being able to comprehend large amounts of time all at once. It will baffle the mind, but that's okay. And these orbits, kind of these comets that are going around in orbit around you, are also opening to what you would call the past and the future. Normally, this would literally cause one to go insane in allowing this, because they're so ingrained in incremental linear time that they can't handle it. Their balance, their physical balance, then their ears would start going out and they start going crazy. But we're at that point where we can do this. Free time. It's outrageous. It's wonderful. One thing you'll start noticing with free time is that this whole concept of time, and let's say of the past and future, are really predicated on experience. Experience. You know, a spirit doesn't have a clock in her bedroom. The ascended masters they don't wear watches. They're not locked into time. And in a way, there is no past or there's no future. In a way. What there is an unfolding of experience. One could say that nothing happens in the future until it has been experienced, but yet the future is always there. It's actually not realized until it is experienced, but yet it is there. Everything you're going to do in the future is there. Every potential of everything and every iteration of every potential of everything that you could ever experience, that you would ever say, that you would ever do, was all there when you went through the wall of fire, when you left home. That was the thing Tobias talks about, shattering into billions and billions of pieces. It was just pre-creating all of your experiences. And so many are still out there in what you call the future, but the future is nothing more than a reservoir of potentials and all their iterations yet to be experienced. That's what some people would call time. That's why nobody's ever really been good about predicting the future, because they don't understand that it's not occurring tomorrow and beyond. It exists in this moment, yet to be experienced. I wanted to be here together in a group with all of us here, particularly on this day of your beautiful tree of sensuality, so we together, Shambra, we could all start going into free time. Please don't work at it, don't struggle with it. You just get yourself caught in incremental time. But we can allow it. It's going to be outrageous what happens with free time. It's going to feel strange at times because you've really been locked into this old way. It's going to feel rather strange, but it's going to be outrageous. Imagine getting up in the morning and realizing that you're also getting up in the morning in your past, and you're getting up in the morning in your future, all at the same time. It's outrageous. It'll throw you off a little bit, but then you'll adapt and adjust. You see, this is what an embodied master does. They don't just get realized and use the same old damn tools that, well, the other ascended masters did. No wonder we all left. But you, opening new pathways, you come into free time. Let's take a deep breath. Let's take a good deep breath. We'll be coming back to this. We'll be talking about it more and more, bringing it into our gatherings. Let's take a deep breath with free time. It kind of has a double meaning. Free time meaning no longer stuck in incremental, but you're finally going to have free time in your life. Free time, I mean, you have real time to yourself instead of every moment of every day being filled with obligations and work and things you have to do. You're suddenly going to realize what free time really is.